Joining me today on the Love Podcast is Lynmary. Lynmary, would you just give our listeners and people watching just a brief overview of who you are?
Yeah, of course. Hiya. So I'm Lynmary. I was about to say my age, but I won't say my age. I'm married to Aaron. We've been married now nearly coming up to 2 years. So we got married in May 2021, sorry, during lockdown. Together we've got 4 kids. Michael, who's 12, Leah, who's 11, Kira, who's 9, and Nina, who's 10. So many kids to remember. Um, and it probably doesn't all make sense. Like, I'm married for 2 years, 4 kids. How does that work? So before Aaron, I had Michael. I was a single mom, single parenting Michael. Aaron had Leah and Kira. So when we got married, became a blended family of 5. And then a year later, there was Nina, who was born. Now she's 10 months. Currently, I'm on maternity leave. So I'm doing a bit of my wedding stuff. I do events, decorating and planning. So that's going well. But when I go back to work, I'm a quantity surveyor. Been doing that for a few years and I really, really enjoyed that. So
Wow. Wow. I remember the first time you were like, yeah, I'm a quantity surveyor. I was like, what? Wow. So as you mentioned, like before you guys got married, you were a single mother. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what your expectations were going into motherhood. And, I'm taking it you didn't have plans to become a single mother. So just, what happened in the early stages of your journey?
So like you said, I wasn't planning it. My plan was like, okay, 28, once you finish uni, get your house, then get married and then have a child. But then finding out at 21 in the middle of uni that I'm pregnant, I was like, okay. And do you know what? I just went into coping strategy. I just had to find ways to cope. So I took a year out of uni, just started working to make sure that I had money saved. And it's funny because there was joy in having Michael. So he brought so much joy, but there was also quite a lot of hardship. Just trying to, I think I put a little bit of pressure on myself. I was trying to be perfect and prove to the world that I can do it and we're fine. So there was just so much pressure that I put on myself. So if you saw me, you'd be like, she's doing great. But inside, it was just like I was burning out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was joy, but there was also a lot of hardship as well.
Yeah. So how did you cope during that time being a single mom? Like when I hear that you only took a year out, I think at that point some people just be like, no, uni can't happen now. But you took that year and then you went back and you're trained and qualified as a quantity surveyor. So what was that kind of journey like doing that, and how did you manage?
Thanks be to God. Michael's got amazing grandparents who kind of stepped in from both sides. My mom stepped in and his other grandma stepped in. And she kind of, his other grandma, she took time off work when I was at uni to look after Michael. So God was amazing. And he just put the right people throughout the whole journey. He put the right people at the right time. So I can't even say it was because I was superwoman and I did it all, but he just put the right people. And I was just, because when I was younger, the expectation was like, okay, you get married, you have kids. And I still wanted that. And I have my career. So I was like, okay, this wasn't according to the plan, but there's still a plan. So let me still go back to the plan that I had. So it was just like, okay, keep working, keep trying, and God did it.
Yeah. Wow. So how did that experience like shape your relationship with God?
It brought me closer and closer to him. Sorry, like the first few years of having Michael, I'll probably say the first 3 years, I was trying to do it by myself. Like I said, I was trying to prove to the world that I'm superwoman. I can do this. I might be young, but I'm a good mom. I didn't want him to be I can't even say the word, statistics.
Statistic. Yeah.
That's the one. I wanted to be that. And so I was just like trying to prove to the world, and it just wasn't working. It really wasn't working. But when I kind of when I hit rock bottom, I was like, okay, God, I can't do it by myself. I need you. And I just remember me praying, and I'd come out of church for a while. Because I was kind of ashamed of being in church, and I kind of condemned myself. No one at church did it. It was me. I was doing it. But then I was like, I need to go back to church and being in the place of God. And the more I came back to church, the more pastor preached, the more I enjoyed myself. I just got closer and closer to God, and he started to open doors. Life became easier. I didn't have to prove myself anymore. I was literally free.
Wow.
So yeah, that's after that, I think about 3-4 years, Michael, was my relationship with God just got better and better and better. I got closer to him, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. So you touched upon like how you felt being a single mum, because I think that, being single full stop, it's like that word just says lack, like single, like there's like an insufficiency there. So, but I know that before you got with Aaron, you were so content being a single mum. So how, like, what did you kind of go through to get to that point where you were like, no, actually, I'm fine where I am, and I'm not seeing myself in a negative way that some would want to, see that label as a negative thing?
So you're so right, because at first it was kind of like, oh, I want a husband. I want to be in that family that, been married, so people don't see my singleness and they don't look down on me. So I spent a few years wanting that, but it was when I went to a church conference, and there was a lady that was like, okay, all the single people stand up. And I was like, okay, here we go again. That's me. And usually I wouldn't stand up, but I was like, you are single, just own it. And she was like, I know a lot of you just want to get married, you want the husband, you're like, God, when is it my time? When is it my time? But you're never going to get a time to be single again. You're never going to get a time to serve God as much. Because she was like, in your single time, you don't have a family, you don't have all the added on responsibilities. You can fully give yourself to God. You can just get up one morning and be like, okay, I'm going to France today, I'm going to Italy today, not have to tell anyone or make plans, or, I was just like, you know what? Actually, there is joy in being single. So the next I got on a plane to France with my friend, and we went to Italy. And then I just started serving in church more Sunday, especially when I didn't have Michael when he went to his dad's house. I just said, you know what? I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to feel like, oh, you're single, so you're inadequate. So I just started serving more in church. I was in like so many different teams. That's when it changed, when at that conference. So I can't remember the lady, I can't remember where exactly it was, but I just remember what she was saying, that you're never going to get this time back again. So enjoy yourself. Don't just the whole time just waiting.
Yeah.
So
And how important was it to get to that point so that you knew when you were entering into your relationship with Aaron, it was the right relationship to get into?
it was so important, because in that season I just learned to be content. I learned to be happy within myself. I feel like I found myself again. I wasn't looking to God to what he can give to me, but I was thanking him for what I have already, and started to appreciate what I have, started to appreciate my son, and didn't look at single mothering as a disadvantage. I started loving my job, loving the people around me, the network around me. So I just found who Lynmary was again. And so when I met Aaron, I how can I say? It's not like I was, you know, sometimes they're like, oh, you meet your husband, you become whole. I was whole. I was a whole person.
Yeah.
Um, I knew what I liked. I knew what I didn't like. And my relationship with God was strong as well. So
Yeah.
that really.
So what advice would you give to someone, not someone who is in that position, but someone who knows someone who's in that position? How is it best to kind of support that person to not make them feel away? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, because I think that you can almost be like, oh, like look at a single mum, be like, oh, and like feel sorry, but actually there was no kind of pity for
Yeah.
you. Like you say, you were so content where you were. So for someone who has a friend who is a single mum, like how best could someone like support them in that season?
That's a very, very good question. A very good question. I would say sometimes when you see someone, whether they're single or disability, sometimes you assume what type of help they need just because of what you can see. Um, but sometimes it's just having a conversation, having a conversation and not really saying, oh, I see you're single and you've got a child. I feel like your children are struggling. Can I help? But just spending time with them. And when you have conversations with them and spending time with them, you start to see where it is they need help. And
Mm,
then just obviously being sensitive as well and be like, actually, you said you haven't had a night out. What if I have the kids and then you go on a night out? Or can we find a babysitter and then we go out together or something? So I'll just say spending time and listening and
mm.
not assuming you think you know the help they need. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, 100%. I think it's something that I've definitely been guilty of, because if you've never been in that situation, like you say, you just make that assumption. So when obviously, like you're now married, you've been married for 2 years. So did you ever like, I know that you said that it's something that you were wanting right in the beginning, but then you became very content. So at that point of contentment, is it something that you ever continue to think about, or had you just completely stopped thinking about it and then it happened?
I stopped thinking about it. I remember thinking after that conference, I was like, right, God, it's you, me, and Michael. We're in a free relationship. And
Amazing.
I kind of stopped thinking about it. I'm at a conference. I actually prayed. I said, God, your will be done. If it's your will for me to be married, then let it happen at your timing, not my timing. If it's going to be in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, so be it.
Mm.
Um, if it's not your will for me to get married, then I'm okay with that. Whatever you
Wow.
decide, I'm okay. So I kind of just stopped thinking about it. And then so when I met Aaron, it was like when he was like, yeah, I would like you. I was like, nah, it's me, God and Michael.
No, thank you.
And he was just like, okay. Um, but I'd gotten so content that I've forgotten. I said, God, let your will be done. If it is
Wow.
yeah.
So how did you obviously, like you got married and you've been married for 2 years, but you were together for how long before you guys got married?
We were together now about say 2 years. Yeah,
Cool.
2 years. I met him in 2017 and we got married in 2021, but for a while we were just friends, not just yeah, because I was
Yeah.
very much God, me and Michael.
So how did you navigate the whole, like when did you know it was time to introduce Michael to Aaron? Or did he know him as your friend before that happened?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, but I thank God it happened that way. Lee and Kira, their best friend was our next door neighbor. So they used to,
Wow.
the kids always played together. So it was never, when they started seeing it, he never saw Aaron as anything more than Lee and Kira's dad, who used to come and pick up Lee and Kira when they play next door.
Yeah.
But that was good in itself. It gave us time to get to know each other more before we could introduce the kids.
Yeah.
That's something I was really careful about. And I think if you are single parenting, you don't introduce the kids too early, until you guys are certain that this is it, really, to be fair.
Yeah.
So it took, I think when we knew that we were gonna get engaged, oh, this is going into marriage. This is, we've prayed on it and God has said yes. And we're both like, okay, I know Michael knows you as Uncle Aaron, but now let's take him out and actually tell him that actually it's not just Uncle Aaron. But it's probably like a year in, I'd say, a year in.
Right. Yeah.
So we kind of sat down and spoke to the kids and told them, yeah.
And how has that been? Has it been something that you've had to like really like tiptoe around, or have you found that the kids have just kind of responded to it really well?
The kids, they were excited when we first told them before we
Oh,
were married, because Michael always wanted a dad in the house and he wanted siblings, and the girls wanted a brother because they didn't have a brother.
oh,
They all just kind of fell together. I'm not saying it was perfect, it wasn't smooth sailing. There's so sometimes when Michael, I think, he started to feel, I'm not the only child anymore. I have to share my attention. Uh, but in it all, they were, especially before the wedding, they were counting down the days to the wedding.
oh,
It was definitely our wedding, not just me and Aaron's. The calendar, there was crossing out the days. We had to delay it because of COVID.
yeah.
They were just so upset. They're like, but why? But why? I'm like, we can't. But they've been very, very excited. They
Yeah.
were.
Is there any kind of anything that you've learned for someone who is in that, like in those stages now of starting to bring their family together? Is there anything like that you were like, wow, I really feel like I've learned something significant there, and that you could share with anyone?
I'll say, let the kids determine how, when they open up. So someone like Kira, who was younger, from day one, it was like, can I call you mommy? Can I now call you mommy? I was like, so she was very open from there, but just her age and her personality as well. She's just welcoming to everyone, whereas her sister's a bit more reserved. So it
Yeah.
took her a while to open up. And in a way, in the time, I was just like, oh, maybe she doesn't like me. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe she, I started to kind of overthink it. But then I started to read books and speak to other couples and just realize, you know what, kids' personalities and kids' ages all determine how much they open up and how quickly they open up.
Mm,
Um, so with Leah, I've had to play the patient game to kind of earn her trust. But now we're like best friends. Like she's
oh,
calm, she talks to me, she's open with me. But it's taken probably 2 years to get to this point. Whereas
yeah.
with Kira, it took 5 months or 6 months. It was much less to get to that point. And so I would just say let the kids determine how quick the relationship goes.
Yeah.
Don't try to force anything. Don't hold back any love. You always give love, give love, give all the love that you can give. Even if you're not getting anything back,
Mm,
eventually they will start to open up in their own time.
wow. That is so helpful and so important. So I mean, your motherhood journey has like been so varied. Like you've got in your young years, you've had so many different experiences. What would you say is like the biggest lesson that you've learned that you would pass on to someone else as advice?
I would say enjoy every moment. It goes so quick. It feels like Nina was only born yesterday. Now she's 10 months. And I remember when Michael was born, and I'm like, he's 12. He's going to be 13 in April. So I'll say literally enjoy every moment and don't be so hard on yourself. Like I said, in the beginning, I was so hard on myself that I didn't really get to enjoy as much as I. Comparing the two kids, Michael and Nina, I've fully enjoyed Nina because if I'm tired, I'm tired. I'm not gonna tell you. If I've
Yeah.
had, do you get what I mean and stuff? I'm free to be me and I'm free to enjoy motherhood and not try and be so perfect because what's perfect anyway? So like enjoy yourself and don't be so hard. You said one thing, but I'm saying two.
No, I think they're both important. They're both important. And also, like, finally, before we kind of wrap it up, like, what would you say to someone who, you know, their plan obviously wasn't to, well, it might have been, but more than likely it's not to have become a single mum. And perhaps they're someone who, you know, believes in God, but because of what's happened, they feel like you did, condemned and like they shouldn't be in church. What would you say to someone who's in that situation?
Stay in church, stay connected to God because he knew this was going to happen. He's already forgiven you. He's not condemning you, nor should anyone condemn you either. We all fall short, and that's why we need His grace. But stay connected to God because you can't go wrong when you stay connected to Him, and also forgive yourself as well. That sometimes you feel like everyone's looking at you and condemning you, but when you really open your eyes, no one's really condemning you, no one's looking at you, everyone's got things that they're dealing with. So just don't be so hard on yourself, but definitely stay connected to God.
Definitely. I think, you know, when I went through my kind of rebellious my rebellious time, the worst thing I did was I stopped going to church, because I think when you do that, it's only going to go from bad to worse.
Yep. Yep.
It's only going to go, because then it's almost like you've kind of like severed that one thing that was giving you any kind of accountability. And so, yeah, even if it hasn't led to you becoming a single mother, just through, you know, my own journey, I completely agree with that stay in church and you know, build those friendships and support networks around you. Because for me, that's when I really started to change, when I started to have those like friends around you. I mean, as a single mum in church, did you, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. Did you find that there was a community that you could be part of?
Yeah. Yeah, there was actually, and that really helped as well, seeing other single parents, whether it's mothers or fathers, and just seeing how they navigated through life. I mean, we've got a small group, and the small group is made of majority single mums.
Wow.
We meet every Wednesday. The kids come together. The mums comes together. It's such a blessing. It's been a blessing to my life, and I know it's been a blessing to other mums' life as well. So, the other women rather. So yeah, there's definitely a network of women and men who are single.
Yeah. So like no matter what happens in your life, there's always like a community that you can be part of.